My name is Lenora Kellerman. I'm 30 years old, and if you asked most people to describe me, they'd probably say I'm steady, reliable, the kind of woman who pays her bills on time, keeps the fridge stocked, and never forgets to get gas before the warning light comes on. Some might call it boring. I call it peace. I work in IT at a mid-sized firm. Nothing glamorous, but I like it. Stability has always mattered more to me than flashy titles or endless risks. Maybe that's why I thought my relationship with Ethan worked. We'd been together for nearly 4 years. I thought we'd built something real. When we first met, Ethan was finishing grad school. Money was tight, so I helped carry us for a while, paid the rent, handled groceries, kept the lights on. I didn't resent it. I believed in him, in us. And when he landed his first decent job in marketing, I told myself all the sacrifices were worth it. Heading into our 10-year college reunion, I felt proud. I wasn't rich, but I was steady. I imagined walking into that banquet hall with Ethan by my side, showing people the life I'd built. A quiet victory, really. The thought even had me considering something bigger, the kind of bigger that comes in a velvet box. But the night didn't turn out the way I imagined. The drive to campus was ordinary enough. I was behind the wheel of my faithful little Honda Civic, the one car I've owned longer than most people keep relationships. Ethan sat beside me, scrolling through his phone, using the camera to check his hair. "You're quiet," he said without looking up. "Just thinking," I replied, eyes fixed on the road. "About what?" "Seeing everyone again. 10 years feels like forever, and yesterday at the same time." He smirked, finally meeting my eyes. "Don't get too sentimental. Reunions aren't movies. Most of those people probably don't even remember you." The words stung, but I laughed softly. "Thanks for the pep talk." He leaned back, folding his arms. "I just don't want you expecting some grand moment. Honestly, you'll probably hate it. Or maybe it'll be good to catch up," I countered. He gave me a smile that wasn't really a smile at all. "You're so predictable, Lenora. Always expecting things to turn out fine. That's your problem." I didn't ask what he meant by problem. I just tightened my grip on the wheel, a knot forming in my stomach. The banquet hall looked exactly as I remembered. School colors draped on banners. The faint smell of buffet food lingering in the air. Clusters of people laughing too loudly, like they were desperate to prove they hadn't aged a day. Ethan straightened his jacket and slipped his arm through mine. For a moment I felt proud again. This was my boyfriend, my partner. I wanted people to see us together. The first hour wasn't terrible. We traded stories with classmates, compared jobs, marriages, kids. One woman clapped my shoulder, laughing, "Lenora, you were always the calm one." Ethan chuckled into his wine glass. Calm. Predictable. That's Lenora. His tone had an edge I didn't like. A couple of people laughed nervously, but the comment hung in the air like smoke. Then she walked in. Marissa. Tall, confident, with the kind of magnetic energy that made the room bend toward her. She hadn't changed much since college, still glowing, still carrying herself like life was hers to command. Ethan's entire face lit up. "Marissa," he breathed as if her name alone carried oxygen. They hugged, lingering too long. She held his shoulders, smiling like she'd been waiting a decade for this moment. Ethan. Wow. 10 years. "Too long," he said, glowing back. Then, almost as an afterthought, he gestured toward me. "This is Lenora, my girlfriend. She's steady. Steady, like a used chair, like I was a placeholder rather than a person." "Nice to meet you," Marisa said politely before turning her full attention back to him. The rest of the night, I might as well have been invisible. They swapped old jokes I'd never heard, laughed with their heads close together. Ethan's eyes never left her. At one point, I caught her voice low, but not low enough. "I always thought you'd end up in New York and we'd find each other there." My stomach dropped. Did she really just say that in front of me? Ethan laughed softly. "Yeah, life had other plans." And then hours later, after too many drinks, came the line that would carve itself into my memory forever. We were in a circle with his old friends. His cheeks flushed, his smile too wide. Ethan raised his glass like he was giving a toast. "You know what's funny? Lenora's always been the safe one, the kind of woman you settle down with. But sometimes safe is just safe." There was awkward laughter. Heat climbed into my chest. But he wasn't done. He turned to me, eyes glassy, but voice sharp. "Honestly, Lenora, you were just my safe choice. Until this weekend." His eyes flicked toward Marissa. I mean, look at her. The room fell silent. I felt every pair of eyes on me. My heart pounded, but my hands stayed steady. I reached into my purse, pulled out the keys, and placed them in front of him. My voice was calm, colder than ice. "You can find your own way home. No yelling, no scene, just that. And then I turned and walked out, the noise of the banquet hall crashing behind me. The night air hit me like a wave, cool and sharp, as if the universe itself had taken a breath I hadn't realized I was holding. If I'd known how much my life would change after that moment, I might have smiled. Because that night wasn't the end, it was only the beginning. When I got home that night, the apartment felt like someone else's. I dropped my purse on the couch and stood in the doorway staring at the framed photos lining the wall. Birthdays, vacations, little moments frozen in time. Once they had felt precious. Now they looked staged fake, like we'd been actors in a play that had just ended with one devastating line. "You were just my safe choice until this weekend." The words echoed in my head, dull and sharp all at once, like pressing a bruise. My phone buzzed. Ethan's name lit up the screen. Then again, and again. I didn't answer. I set the phone face down on the table and sat in silence, listening to my own breath. It wasn't the kind of silence that suffocates. No, this one felt new. Skelamenga. It was almost freeing. The next morning, the calls turned to texts. "Ethan, Lenora. Where are you? We need to talk." "Ethan. I was drunk. It came out wrong." "Ethan. You know I didn't mean it like that. Please answer. Ethan. Don't do this." I blocked his number. For the first time in years, I chose silence over explanations. No more cleaning up his mess with soft words or second chances. The following week moved in fragments. Work, gym, dinners alone. Nights were the hardest. I'd lie in bed replaying the reunion in my head. Every detail was sharper than it had been in the moment, the way his lips curled as he said, "Safe choice," the uncomfortable chuckles from classmates, the weight of the keys as I slid them across the table. Sometimes the memory felt like fire, other times like ice. But each time I told myself the same thing, I walked away. And with each repetition, the sting dulled. Then the photos started. Friends from the reunion sent me screenshots, unable to resist the drama. Ethan and Marissa arm in arm at some trendy bar. Ethan beaming, as if he'd just stepped into a movie. Marissa holding a glass of champagne, her smile sharp enough to cut glass. The captions stung more than the images. Good company. Good night. To the outside world, it probably looked like a fairy tale, the golden couple reunited after a decade apart. But I noticed something others didn't. In every photo, Ethan's eyes weren't on her. Not really. They drifted, distracted, searching. And Marissa's smile, too wide, too practiced. The kind of smile that dares the world to look closer, but prays no one actually does. I muted their accounts. Not out of weakness, but out of strength. Their story was no longer mine to carry. Yet people couldn't help themselves. Updates trickled in like water through cracks. "Did you see Ethan and Marissa? They're everywhere lately." Or whispered at work, "I heard she's already complaining he doesn't text back fast enough." I pretended not to care. But alone, I allowed myself the smallest smile. Because even in those early weeks, I saw the truth forming. Ethan thought I had been his anchor, his steady ground, his safe choice. What he didn't realize was that anchors don't beg to be held. Anchors cut free. And once they do, the ship drifts. One evening, I sat on the balcony with a cup of tea, the city humming softly below me. The phone was silent, blissfully so. For the first time in years, I wasn't waiting for someone else's mood to dictate mine. And that's when I understood something Ethan never had. Silence isn't empty. It's full of power. And though he didn't know it yet, the silence I gave him was the beginning of his unraveling. 2 weeks after the reunion, the gossip had already started. I didn't seek it out, but people seemed eager to keep me updated, as if they needed me to witness the spectacle. "Ethan and Marissa are inseparable," one message read, followed by a photo of them at a rooftop bar. Ethan had his arm around her waist, his smile wide, but his eyes were elsewhere. Another classmate texted, "They look like a power couple." I stared at the image, and for the first time I felt nothing. Just distance, like watching skelemengers. But the cracks appeared sooner than anyone expected. At first it was whispers. A coworker of Ethan's mentioned he'd been showing up late, distracted. Someone else hinted Marissa wasn't exactly exclusive. That she still flirted, still kept her options open. One evening, a mutual friend called me. "I shouldn't be telling you this," she began. Her voice tinged with guilt, but Marissa was bragging at happy hour. "Said Ethan's already getting clingy. He texts nonstop, wants to stay over all the time, and she's annoyed." I let out a soft breath. Annoyed. Yeah. Her exact words were, "He's a nice guy, but I'm not looking for boring." Boring, predictable, safe. The same words he once hurled at me now echoed back at him, sharper, crueler. Meanwhile, my life was steadying. Work had become my anchor. I stayed late some evenings, not because I had to, but because the hum of servers and the glow of code on my screen felt more honest than anything Ethan had ever promised me. At the gym, I pushed myself harder. Each rep, each drop of sweat felt like proof I was stronger than I had been at that reunion. Slowly, I noticed something changing. The nights weren't so heavy anymore. The silence I once feared now soothed me. For the first time in years, I was living without someone else's shadow hanging over me. Then came the oversharing. Ethan and Marissa's social media posts shifted. At first, glossy pictures of expensive dinners, hotel lobbies, champagne glasses clinking. But soon the captions grew pointed defensive. Real love is passion, not predictability. Never settle for safe choices. Her words cut close, almost deliberately aimed at me. I didn't rise to the bait. I muted her, muted him, muted the whole circus. But still, the updates found me screenshots forwarded by friends, whispers over coffee. And the more I saw, the clearer it became Ethan was chasing validation while Marissa was chasing the next thrill. Neither of them had what the other truly wanted. One night, while folding laundry, I caught myself laughing an honest, unguarded laugh. Because the irony was too sharp to ignore. Ethan had thrown me away for passion, but passion was already slipping through his fingers. Marissa wasn't building a life with him. She was playing a game Ethan didn't even know he was losing. Still, I'd be lying if I said it didn't sting. Sometimes late at night, I'd close my eyes and replay the reunion. The look on Ethan's face as he chose her, the laughter in Marissa's eyes, the silence of the room around me. It hurt. But now that hurt wasn't raw anymore. It was scar tissue. And scar tissue, I reminded myself, is stronger than skin. A month after the reunion, I heard the inevitable. Marissa had been spotted at another bar, not with Ethan, but with someone else. A man leaning too close, her hand resting casually on his arm. The story spread quickly. Ethan's coworkers noticed the tension. His friends whispered that he looked exhausted. And I sipped my tea, looking out at the city lights, and let a small, quiet smile tug at my lips, because I knew what was coming. Ethan thought leaving me for Marissa was the beginning of a better story. But really, it was the beginning of his unraveling. And I didn't have to lift a finger. The first sign was an email. No subject line, just a wall of text. Lenora, I know I hurt you. You don't understand. Things with Marissa aren't what I thought they'd be. She's not serious. She's fun, but she's not stable like you. I miss how calm you made my life feel. I don't know why I said what I said at the reunion. Please just let me explain. I read it once, then again. My chest should have ached, but instead I felt hollow. I closed the tab and went back to work. No reply, no explanation, silence. But silence, I learned, doesn't deter desperation. It fuels it. The next week, he showed up at my building. I spotted him leaning against the wall near the N. Kellerman's jacket, wrinkled hair, unkempt. Not the polished Ethan from reunion night. This one looked cracked. Lenora, he said as I approached, his voice rough, please. 5 minutes. That's all I'm asking. I stopped a few feet away. My keys gripped in my hand. What are you doing here? His eyes searched mine, frantic. I need to explain. Marissa, she's not who I thought she was. She played me. She never wanted anything serious. And when I tried to commit, she laughed. Laughed, I repeated flatly. She called me her experiment. His voice broke on the word. Said she just wanted to relive college for a while. I was nothing more than a placeholder. The irony was almost too sharp to bear. I let the silence stretch until he squirmed. Finally, I said quietly, Do you hear yourself, Ethan? Do you realize those are the same words you branded me with? His face crumpled. It's not the same. It's exactly the same. He stepped closer, eyes shining with desperation. Lenora, I was wrong. You were never just the safe choice. You were my safe place. I see that now. I miss it. I miss you. I studied him. The man who once dismissed me as predictable now begged for the stability he'd thrown away. But my voice was steady. You didn't call me safe by accident, Ethan. You meant it. You meant every word. And I heard you. Loud and clear. His breath caught. So that's it. You're just going to turn your back. After everything, I tilted my head. Funny. That's exactly what you did. He looked at me then with something raw, not love, not even regret, but panic. A man realizing the ground beneath him was gone and he had no anchor left to hold. Please, Lenora, he whispered, voice cracking. Don't let this be the end. I unlocked the door, meeting his gaze one last time. It already was. The moment you chose her over me. Then I stepped inside, closed the door behind me, and let the deadbolt click. On the other side, I could hear him breathing faint and uneven. Then silence. I leaned against the door, heart steady. For months I had feared silence, but now I understood silence isn't weakness, it's power. And for the first time, I wasn't the one unraveling. He was. Time has a way of smoothing sharp edges. Weeks passed. The sting of reunion night dulled into something distant, like an old scar I could touch without flinching. At work, I threw myself into projects. My manager noticed. One afternoon, she called me into her office. "Lenora, you've been killing it lately. I'd like to put you up for lead." I blinked, stunned. Lead the role Ethan once teased me about. You're too careful, too steady. Leadership takes boldness. Turns out steadiness was exactly what people wanted. I accepted the promotion with quiet pride. Life outside work blossomed too. At the gym between sets, a mutual friend introduced me to someone new. His name was Daniel. Tall, kind eyes. The kind of smile that wasn't rehearsed, but warm, genuine. We started talking after workouts, then coffee, then dinners that didn't feel like performances, just conversations that stretched easily into the night. Daniel didn't care what car I drove or how many zeros were on my paycheck. He cared about how I laughed, how I listened, how I showed up. It was refreshing. No games, no drama, just presence. I wasn't rushing into anything, but for the first time in months, I felt light. Meanwhile, Ethan's story was writing itself without me. The glossy photos with Marissa had vanished. No more champagne toasts, no rooftop selfies. In their place, the occasional grainy shot of Ethan alone at a bar, shoulders hunched. Whispers trickled through our circles. Marissa had dropped him, publicly dismissed him with the same cruelty he once used on me. He'd begged, of course, but she'd moved on before the begging even began. I didn't laugh, not out loud, but deep inside I recognized the symmetry. What you give to others eventually returns. Then came the test. A friend invited me to his engagement party, a night of music chatter, clinking glasses. Daniel offered to come, and I said yes. The venue was warm and glowing fairy lights strung across the ceiling. I walked in on Daniel's arm, and for a brief second I forgot Ethan might be there. But then I saw him, standing near the bar alone. No Marissa, no entourage, just Ethan staring into a half-empty glass. His eyes found me instantly, froze, then widened when they landed on Daniel. I felt his stare follow me across the room, felt the weight of his silence. But instead of shrinking, I lifted my chin and smiled. For once, not for show, for myself. Later that evening, when Daniel stepped away to chat with friends, Ethan made his move. "Lenora," he said softly, appearing at my side. I turned my expression calm. "Ethan." He looked me over, lingering too long. "You look good." "Thanks." His gaze shifted toward Daniel across the room. "So is that your boyfriend?" "Yes." There was a pause. His lips tightened. "Don't you think it's a little fast? I mean, after everything we had..." I tilted my head. "After everything we had, Ethan, there is no we anymore." His throat bobbed. I was wrong. I was stupid. Marissa made me feel like I could have more, but she used me. And I see now. You were the one who cared. The one who would have stayed. I remembered his voice at the reunion, sharp and careless. You were just my safe choice until this weekend. Now I let the memory guide me. You were right about one thing, I said quietly. I was the safe choice. Safe, loyal, dependable. And those are exactly the qualities that make me worth more than you ever saw. Daniel sees it. You didn't. His face twisted regret. Humiliation, desperation, all tangled together. So that's it. You're just going to throw me away. I shook my head gently. No, Ethan. You threw me away. I just stopped picking up the trash. Before he could respond, Daniel returned, sliding an arm around my waist. I leaned into him, smiling naturally. Ethan's lips trembled, his eyes glassy. But I didn't stay to watch him crumble. I had no interest in footnotes when I was already writing a new chapter. As the night wore on, laughter filled the room. Daniel told a story that made me laugh so hard I nearly spilled my drink. And for a moment I caught sight of Ethan at the edge of the crowd, standing alone watching. He looked smaller than I remembered. Diminished. And I realized then he wasn't the main character anymore, not in my life. He was just background noise. A few months later, life had settled into something I never thought possible back on that reunion night. My mornings began with coffee on the balcony, the city still half asleep. Daniel's laughter drifting from the kitchen as he hummed while cooking breakfast. My evenings were filled with purpose, leading my team at work, mentoring younger colleagues, stepping into a role I once believed was beyond me. It was Skelamengi. The same steadiness Ethan mocked as predictable had become my foundation for growth. What he dismissed as safe was what made me strong. Every so often I'd hear about him. Through the grapevine, whispers floated. Ethan was drinking too much. He'd been demoted at work after too many mistakes. Marissa was long gone already, flaunting another golden boy on her arm. And Ethan, he was left chasing shadows. Part of me thought I'd feel satisfaction, that I'd drink it in like revenge. But instead all I felt was distance, because somewhere along the way Ethan stopped mattering. He wasn't a chapter in my story anymore, just a footnote. One evening, Daniel and I attended another gathering. A different party, different lights, different faces. Yet across the room I saw Ethan again. He looked worn, older than his years. The sharpness in his eyes was gone, replaced by something hollow. For a moment his gaze found mine. He opened his mouth like he might say something. But then he saw Daniel's hand resting gently on mine the easy way I leaned into him, the laughter spilling from my lips. And Ethan looked away. No words, no begging, just silence. The same silence I had given him months ago, only this time it wasn't mine. It was his. Walking home that night, Daniel squeezed my hand. "You're quiet," he said, smiling softly. "I'm just thinking," I replied. "About what?" "About how sometimes," I said, glancing up at the stars, "the things that break us are the same things that set us free." Daniel nodded, pulling me closer as we walked. "Then maybe they're not really breaking us, just redirecting us." I smiled. He was right. Ethan once said I was predictable, that I was safe. But safety isn't weakness. It isn't boring. It's the reason I walked away, the reason I rebuilt, the reason I found someone who values me not as a fallback, but as a choice. A real choice. And that was the difference Ethan would never understand. Because the thing about being someone's safe choice is this: once they discard you, they don't get to circle back. Not when safety starts looking attractive again. By then it's too late. As Daniel and I stepped inside my apartment, warm light spilling across the floor, I felt something settle deep inside me. Peace. Not the fragile peace of predictability Ethan once mocked, but the kind that comes from knowing I had survived the storm and built something stronger on the other side. Ethan was gone. Marissa was gone. The pain was gone. And I was still here. Not safe, not predictable. Steady, strong, chosen. And for the first time I realized I always had been.